Hi, David Dalton with the Indiana Department of Transportation. I am joined by Karen Novak. She is our Senior Environmental Manager Supervisor in our Fort Wayne district. Thank you for taking time to speak with me this morning.
Yeah, absolutely. It's my pleasure.
Well, I was wondering if you could start by just sharing a little bit about your career journey from where you started to where you are now.
Okay, sure. So I grew up in Kentucky, and soon after high school, I graduation, I went to Florida State University in Tallahassee to get my undergraduate degree in biology.
Hmm.
And from there, I really was wanting to go into marine biology,
Hmm.
and kind of hit some roadblocks along the way, and did a couple internships during my junior, senior years at FSU. Um, One was out in Utah and one was up in Massachusetts. They were both very different.
Hmm.
The one in Massachusetts has really stuck with me. It was just something that I had the passion as wanting to go into marine biology, and was able to work with humpback whales,
Oh, wow.
catalog them, and go out on different excursions just to watch them in the field, and more or less looking at their behavioral patterns and so forth. So that was a very fun and unique opportunity.
Hmm.
Soon after that, I came back home, which I lived in Florida at that time with my mom. So I came back home and just kind of hung out, did a couple jobs here and there, um, just trying to pursue my career, and knew that I needed to go back to school. Was looking for a graduate school
Hmm.
in the marine biology field. Unfortunately, just through various avenues, I was finally able, about a year after I got back home, was finally able to land into a management program. It's an environmental management program
Hmm.
that one of the local schools was offering at that time. And so I got a couple jobs on the side and went to school mostly at night, and was able to get through that program in 2 years and get my master's in environmental management. At that time, I started kind of my career path down in Florida,
Hmm.
and I worked for the county department, doing water sampling throughout the various areas of kind of Southwest Florida,
Hmm.
and mostly laboratory type work, but we did go out in the field and collect samples and so forth. And then soon after that, probably about a year or so into that, I went over to the Department of Environmental Protection, DEP,
Hmm.
in Florida in Fort Myers, and worked for them for a couple years in their hazardous waste program. And I more or less was kind of a compliance enforcement environmentalist or officer. Kind of wore several different hats.
Sure.
But that was a very unique experience. I had a wonderful supervisor that kind of just kind of raised me up. Um, and I learned a lot from him through that time that I was with DEP. And then I had an opportunity come my way to work for a environmental consultant firm over on the east coast of Florida, but they were opening an office on the southwest
Hmm.
side. So I took on that opportunity to work for a consultant, and we basically did a lot of phase one, phase two studies, and just some environmental report writing,
Hmm.
and so forth. I was more or less kind of an assistant, and then my supervisor and I basically went out in the field and did more or less water sampling and provided all the statistics and stuff like
Hmm.
that, put those together to put the reports together of what we were looking at before properties were purchased. I was only with them for about 6 months, and then had an opportunity to go to another county department with Collier County. So that was in Naples, Florida. And I worked in their pollution prevention program department. And I basically, from the time I was there for approximately about 3 years, I did compliance inspections for their hazardous waste department, as well as some storage tank, their storage tank program. I did inspections for that as well. And about, like I said, about 3 years into that, my husband and I started having a family, so we decided to make the move to Indiana.
Okay.
So we could be here with family, watch our kids grow up with their grandparents and so forth. So I was here for approximately 9 months until I was able to find the position with INDOT currently. I started out as just an environmental manager, environmental manager 2 position, and kind of started just as opportunities came along in our program. I was able to kind of go on a track of more of a leadership role.
Sure.
So I did become the team lead about 3 or 4 years into my career with INDOT, and then just within the last year, a little over a year, was able to move into a supervisorial position.
That's great. Wow, you have a tremendous career journey. So kind of talking about what you do now currently, what are some of the responsibilities in your daily work that you could share?
Sure. So right now, at the moment, I lead a team. I have 1 environmental manager, and we have 1 slot that's currently open, and looking to fill that very soon. And then we also have 2 seasonal interns that are working under us as well. So on a day-to-day basis, I'm helping. Obviously, we have quite a few projects, and every project that comes through for letting, for construction, the environmental team has to have some look into it, and provide assistance, as well as do the appropriate field work and stuff necessary to keep the project moving. So we have a built-in project list currently that I go through from time to time and keep it updated with our current task for each project. And alongside that, just supervising my team, making sure that we're getting out in the field at the appropriate times, because we have field season. It's only, last about 6 months out of the year. So, and just, I have been a part of some other, I guess, more or less management or leadership meetings, kind of more or less on a weekly to bi-weekly basis with the rest of our teammates, just to collaborate and keep on task with our projects and relay any impacts or any issues that are coming our way.
Sounds like you have a lot of hats that you're wearing here too.
Yes.
To say the least. I was wondering, if you could, go back in time and have a conversation with yourself about some of the career decisions that you've made, what would be some advice that you would give yourself?
I would say, if I were still in school or even pursuing another, whether going back to school or not, one piece of advice is just, just kind of paying attention to what not only my strengths are, but even weaknesses, and being able to maybe take on a class that I'm not completely familiarized with, and learning something from it.
Absolutely.
so that's one thing that I look back on from time to time, of a couple classes that were, potentially offered or that I could have taken, and where that would have, led me if anywhere different. But I've had some pretty unique paths that I've taken just through some of the internships and stuff that I've done as well.
Sure. I think that's great advice to think about, because sometimes we focus so much on our strengths that we're afraid to take on our weaknesses and how to build
Mhm.
those. I think that's great. What would be a skill that you have to have in your current position right now?
One of the Yeah, there's a few of them, but I would
Sure.
say, a good writing skills for
Mm,
one. We write a lot of documents. It's in regard to a lot of rules and regs that kind of collaborate around the environmental spectrum. So we're working under, the NEPA guidelines, which is the National Environmental Policy Act,
hmm.
which flows into, the Clean Water Act and various other ones. So a good set of, just writing skills, technical skills, and just a kind of a open mind,
Hmm.
positive outlook on, you know, why we're doing what we're doing on a daily
Right.
basis. Because we get a lot of questions, especially with environmental impacts. And obviously, we need to get these projects built and on time and so forth.
Hmm.
And sometimes we just have to work through the ebbs and flows of where those impacts lie.
Sure. And I like how you talk about some of the technical skills that you have to have, but also how far a positive attitude can go.
Mhm.
I think that's great. Uh, so what do you like most about working for the Indiana Department of Transportation?
Um, there's a lot of positive in working. Honestly, when I came on board, I didn't know a whole lot about INDOT at all,
Hmm. Sure.
especially coming from Florida. I mean, I knew roads and bridges were built some way, but I had no idea that
All
there was
right.
all this environmental relation to it. So I thought that was very unique. But I would say, you know, communication has always been at the top of our list. And we're constantly talking about it, even in today, with this remote working and stuff, and
Hmm.
just, um, you know, being engaged um, with your peers,
Sure.
and following through on a daily basis. I think is very important, especially for the jobs that we do and
Hmm.
projects that we try to get, off of our desk so we can move on to another one.
Yeah, I think it sounds like a lot of it has to do with great collaboration too.
Yes,
Kind of
absolutely.
one of the rewards and great things about our agency. So only a few more questions left, but if there was somebody interested in learning about kind of career opportunities, maybe, within our agency, but what, and also more about how you got to where you're at. And it sounds, you shared earlier on, it's been kind of, you've been from one place to the next. And, uh,
Hmm.
but what advice would you give? And you also, I think you mentioned something about internships too. So
Yes,
I'd be curious to hear what you would suggest.
absolutely. We have had the opportunity just within the last 2 years to have seasonal interns working with our team, and it has been a tremendous, tremendous help. Um, for a while there, we scrambled a little bit.
Hmm.
So it's been a great experience. We've have interns obviously that are still in school that are working for us, whether it be on a part-time basis or sometimes full-time in the summers. So I would definitely give the advice as far as if you're still in school or pursuing school, and you have that extra time, to definitely, reach out. We have a lot to offer. If the environmental field is their expertise or what they're looking to get into a little bit more. We have our interns, basically, we do a lot of GIS work, mapping and
Mm-hmm.
so forth. So they're helping us out with that, as well as we do what we call a red flag study. So it's looking at different impacts within our project area. You're looking at a broad spectrum. So anything from hazardous waste sites up to, historical archaeology sites. And we're mapping all those and bringing it all together in a report. So that's definitely been a big help for us, just the different tasks that are related to,
Sure.
each project. So, my advice is to, if you're interested in anything related to environmental biology, whatever it may be, is for one to pursue that internship while they're in school. And if they've already, if they've reached a time period where they're out of school, graduated or whatever, and they're still interested in that field, but just can't quite, get into, a manager position or whatever they're looking for, to start out, if they can do that, to start out in that internship position, as we have one in that position at the moment.
Yeah, I think that's important to, just to get a foot in the door.
Yes.
And it sounds, internships played a pivotal role in your early career to kind of guide you along.
Mhm.
And I think it's good that we have the ability to offer that as well. And I think in general, just it's good to get a foot in the door and just grow one way or another. That exposure, it's important to learn what it is that you want to do, and sometimes what you don't want to do. Uh,
Absolutely.
well, thank you so much for your time. I just one final question, and I just want to hear, is there anything maybe that has been positive that's happened within the past week or two, or maybe even something that you're looking forward to?
hmm I mean, it's been an interesting several weeks. And I would say just even in the remote working, because we really don't know what the future is going to bring us,
Hmm.
in regard to this remote work and when we get back to the office and so forth. Um, Honestly, the positive of all this is that, we've been successful at it. We're
Hmm.
still being able to do everything we potentially could, even if we were in the office.
Yeah.
Having these daily meetings, and being able to still do our work,
Hmm.
whether it be in GIS or report writing or even some field visits we're starting to go out on. So I think, moving forward, I think this is definitely positive, at least for our department.
Hmm.
Capital program management as a whole has been really, and with technical services and construction, have been really working together really well.
Yeah.
Um, and I think it's brought some, good things ahead of us as well. Um, the only other thing I would say, is just, and I think we kind of talked about it before, is just, the collaboration, that I've seen on my side, just even just with my team by themselves,
Hmm.
and how they're, progressing, and they're, whether, they're not necessarily in a leadership role, but they're still leaders to me.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I'm asking them to do things and to think sometimes outside the box. So how are you going to have this conversation with this particular person or group
Right.
or whatever? And it's been awesome to kind of just sit back and, um, and see how it takes place, but just kind of have that, positive feeling about, what the future's going to look like as well.
That's great. Yeah, I thank you so much. I think that's important to think. How we've been able to adapt, and also, there are good things to come from this for sure.
Absolutely.
Well, Karen, Thank you again for your time this morning. I've really enjoyed our conversation. I can't wait to share it with some of the students and folks that want to see what it is that you do and what we do as an agency. So thank you again for your time.
Yeah, absolutely. My pleasure.